Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Thursday, October the 19th, race number 8 at Belmont at the Big A. It's the rescheduled Glen Cove Stakes. We're hoping for some nice weather in New York, finally, after several months, it seems, of rain. Let's throw up the field for the Glen Cove. We're going 3/4 of a mile on the outer turf. This race is for 3-year-old fillies. $125,000 is the purse, 10 in the body of the race. 11 through 14 is the also eligibles, and the 15 Tappan Josie is entered main track only. Dance Macabre had a mini 2-race win streak snapped last time out, but she ran her usual good effort at Kentucky Downs in the Music City.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a pretty good race. I think there are several different horses that you could get interested in this race, Dan. But that being said, to me, the 2 is clearly the horse to beat in this race. She's a 3-time stakes winner. She shows up every single time, never been off the board on the turf. The distance, 6 furlongs, no issue for her. There's a lot to like about her. She'll get a good trip in this race, but there are other ways to go also.
There is also a good amount of speed. We throw up the Time Form US Pace Projector. I agree with that red bar assessment. I also agree that the 5 Future Is Now might be the speed of the speed. She blitzed him last time out at Pimlico, but now she has to step up in class. She has to step up in distance. There are other horses in here that are very fast. Beauty of the Sea is pretty quick. Determined Jester is a horse that I think is going to show a lot of speed as well.
I do too. Yeah, I won't argue with this pace projector at all, Dan. I do think Future Is Now is a pretty fast horse, and she's so lightly raced. I don't want to pigeonhole her as a horse who needs the lead, but that's where she's been in the 2 wins on the grass. I think there are other horses going in here, though. So if you like one of those horses who are going to be off the pace somewhere, I don't think you have to worry about it too much.
The horse making her second start in North America is the number 1. That's So Innocent. And this is a filly that'll at least get the right pace set up in this race. She didn't really have the perfect trip in her first start in North America, going 5.5 furlongs. I thought that was a very much improved horse that beat her that day. I still think she has to prove herself against stakes horses.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I'm glad to hear you say that, because I was going to ask you about your opinion of that Laurel race, because she did have, a little bit of trouble exiting the backstretch there. But after that, I don't know, she just didn't run at all through the stretch. I thought at least when she got clear, maybe she'd put in a little bit of a run, but she didn't do that. Maybe she needed the race first time in this country, Dan. Her form overseas, it was fine. There's a Group 3 placing back there from last year. But other than that, I don't know. I didn't really love her races, and I didn't like that stateside debut.
Here's Dance Macabre for an underrated trainer, and Kelsey Danner is her most recent start, the Grade 3 Music City at Kentucky Downs. She's run very well at Kentucky Downs in the past. She seems to run well everywhere. She's never been off the board from 8 lifetime starts. She's just going to get beat in this race, but it was also her first start since May. She should be tight as a drum for her second start off the layoff, and she can work out a trip behind a fast pace.
Yeah, that's how I looked at her too. I mean, I don't have anything really to add to that. I just think she's the horse to beat in this race. That effort we just watched there, a fine performance. She was only second best in that race. She didn't have an excuse, but she ran well again. 6 furlongs is not going to be any kind of an issue for her, and she's going to usually gets a really good trip in her races. So I don't have any argument with her. It's your call whether you want to bet her as the favorite.
Determined Jester, the number 3, was the pace setter in the race we just saw. She tired to finish 4th, but maybe, just maybe, she's one of many horses that didn't seem to care or run as well as Kentucky Downs as they do elsewhere. Last time out at Keeneland, it was a pretty tough field. She ran an okay 4th. It was a race where she didn't get close to her accustomed to position near the lead. I think she'll be close here, and she's one from on it, and she's one from just off.
That is the good thing about it. That 2 back, when they took her to Kentucky Downs and went 6.5, they did put her on the lead that day at a big price. And it's not like, she totally gave it up through the stretch. It wasn't a terrible performance, but she was still no match for Dance Macabre. So we'll see if she can get closer to that horse. Some of her other races are fine. She did beat the boys in a stakes race last year at a huge price. But she got a perfect trip in that race. I don't know, man. I thought she was in a little bit tough here, but as you've already pointed out, she does not need the lead to be effective.
Chad Brown, Manny Franco team up with the 4, Lady Beth, the horse cutting back significantly in distance. They ran her in the Winter Memories last time out, going a mile. She carved out the fractions that day. She got a little bit tired. It was her first start off a little bit of a layoff. She ran okay sprinting 2 starts back in the Soaring Softly, Mike. The question is, do you think 6 is a little sharp?
Yeah, I don't know. I that wasn't my big concern with her. Cutting back from a mile to 6 furlongs isn't that easy on the grass anyway, but it wasn't my big concern with her. I don't really like her 2 turf races that much, Dan. I know they're both in stakes races and they're at different distances, so maybe Chad's just sort of figuring her out at this point, and now he wants to sprint her, but to me, she didn't run that well last time. I mean, she was absolutely loose on the lead in there right from the start. And to me, had no excuse. Listen, if she's going to get beat, that's fine. But she didn't finish second or third or fourth.
Future is now is a perfect 2-for-2 on turf. She looked good in her debut at Colonial, dueling with a 13-to-1 shot that finished fourth, and always found a little bit more in the stretch. Michael Trombetta tried dirt second time out. That didn't work as well. She got back to the grass at Pimlico. Now remember, these Pimlico races are only at 5/8 of a mile, but this filly just showed high speed, cleared over the rail from post 11 after the opening quarter mile, and then just put the boots to this group.
And just never gave this field any kind of a chance. I thought she was pretty impressive in here, Dan, even though nobody ever got near her to challenge her. Still really liked this performance. It came back fast. Stretching out from 5 to 6 is a bigger deal than maybe many people will make it. So that works against her in here. There's other speed in this race, so that works against her. This is obviously a way tougher field. Also, I still feel like there's a chance that she's pretty good.
Beauty of the Sea hasn't run since Saratoga in the summer, so it's been about 2 months since we've seen her. She ran in the Galway over a wet turf course. She prompted the pace. She got tired. That race snapped a 3-race win streak where she worked out an okay trip to win the Blue Sparkler 2 starts back. I think she's tactical enough. She'll be sitting second or third, in with a chance turning for home, but if they go real fast early, it could adversely affect her kick.
She could be a fair price in this race, so I didn't really want to be too hard on her. And listen, she got the job done in the stakes race 2 starts back at Monmouth. But to me, that's one of those situations where she wound up working out a really good trip in that race, and the second and third finishers, it really wasn't the case for them. I felt like they both kind of got out unlucky, and Beauty of the Sea sort of took advantage a little bit that day.
It took trainer Mark Casse a little while to get Personal Pursuit back to the turf. She started her career with some promise on turf. Then she earned that stakes placing in her dirt debut, and maybe that kind of fooled the connections into thinking she was going to be a dirt horse. I think this is her best surface turf, and she's coming off a really strong race. I realize this is only a 2-life allowance at Woodbine going 6 furlongs, but you have to love the way she finishes this up.
Yeah, she just smokes this field too. She set a really good trip. The pace wasn't that fast. They raced in a tight pack, and she just had to wait for a seam to open up. It did in the upper stretch there. She's going to blast this field, Dan, in really fast time too. It's just really worth noting too. Not only does it seem like she's just way better on turf, she's also feels like she's way better sprinting than she is going longer. The only other time they sprinted her turf debut here in the Grade 3 Matron last year, she wound up finishing 5th. She did not get a good trip in that race and actually ran really well.
Love Appeals won over course and distance during the spring. Then she went to the sidelines for a little while. I think you can make the argument that she's had some tough trips in her 2 starts since returning. Now she picks up a Rad Ortiz. I think they're going to take her back. They might get the setup. Nothing would surprise me less than Love Appeals running over the top of this field.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think she's a really dangerous horse in here. I just felt like maybe even in both of those last 2 starts, those trips I don't think really worked out perfectly for her either time. Personally, I thought they maybe took her back a little bit too far in those races, because when she broke her maiden going this or won the allowance race rather, going this distance on this turf course, she sat right up close under a big hold, and she smashed that field with a big run through the stretch. I think she can be closer if she has to, and I think she's one of the horses, Dan, getting back out to 6 furlongs as opposed to those shorter sprints. It really helps this horse.
The 9 Don't Look Back at All received a beautiful ride from Jose Ortiz when part of an odds-on coupled entry in a first-level allowance. I believe this race was a race of the day that we did. There was no speed on paper. Jose took the lead, back down the fractions to 46-4, and with that sort of setup, she's not supposed to lose, and she doesn't. I do like the way she finished this race off. She beat 4 next out winners, I think.
Yeah, I appreciate too that it came back, a relatively solid figure as well. She did really have all the best of it here, though, Dan. They just conceded this race to her right out of the gate. Didn't have to go fast, and she just sprinted home. But she looked good winning. Her races as a 2-year-old last year were fine, and it just felt like she's finally starting to head the right way again now as a 3-year-old. They've gotten her back to sprinting on turf. This is what she wants to do. Her last 2 races are good. She could win right back.
Ticker Tape Home completes the body of the race. This is another one trained by Mark Casse. Ran against some older horses last time out over the synthetic at Woodbine in the Seaway. Ran long 2 starts back in the Woodbine Oaks. I think there's a way where you could say maybe turf sprinting is her niche. I kind of wonder if she's more of a 7/8 of a mile sprinter, though.
I had the same concerns there. More than anything else, though, and listen, I would wait and see what kind of price she is, I guess. I didn't really like her that much in here. She's got 2 wins in her career so far. There are 2 races where she just had all the best of it in those races. And the other races where, things didn't, necessarily just get handed to her, she's run fine, but she hasn't looked that good.
Four horses on the also eligible list, one on the MTO. I guess of the AEs, I'm a little interested in Queen of the Mud, who's an unlikely starter, as the third also eligible. Wasn't that just a typical Grand Motion move? Second time out, much improved.
Yeah, she was really good last time. She did manage to make the lead. That probably wouldn't happen if she draws into this race, but she ran really well winning last time.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for our Thursday race of the day. It's the rescheduled Glen Cove. Very impressive finish last time out from the 7 Personal Pursuit, and it looks like Personal Pursuit will get a setup here.
Yeah, I like both of her turf sprints. I think this is what she really wants to do. So I'm going to take her on top, hoping for the right price in this race. I was sort of torn between the 7 and the 8. I kind of feel like the 7 is going to be the better price, so I put her on top.
I think the speed of the speed. The future is now for this Trumpeta runner. Victor Carrasco up from Laurel. Very impressed in her 2 starts. I'm curious to see how she handles stepping up in class, stretching out in distance, but she is fast. 7.825 for Mike, 5.924 for me. Good race. The Glen Cove at the Belmont at the Big A meeting on Thursday. Good luck.